Welcome to Uptime Spotlight, shining light on wind energy's brightest innovators. This is the progress powering tomorrow.
Welcome to the Uptime Wind Energy Podcast Spotlight. I have Joel Saxon with me. I'm Alan Hall, the host, and we're here with Michael McQueenie, head of sales for SkySpecs over in Europe. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
We are at SkySpecs Customer Forum 2025, and it has been a blowout event. So many operators from all over learning and exchanging information about how they operate their assets. We wanted to have you on today because you're our reference to Europe and what is happening with SkySpecs in Europe. America and Europe are on sort of different pathways at the moment. What is that status right now in Europe? What are people calling you for today?
Yeah, I mean, the European market is really booming. We get calls from customers to support with internal inspections, external inspections, as we always have for nearly a decade now. We are seeing a lot more discussions around the enablement services that we can offer. How do we bring a blade engineer in? How do we bring a CMS engineer in to support and give us more of an insight on the data that we have or the data that SkySpecs are producing? So things are evolving, and it's a buoyant offshore industry at the moment.
Yeah, there's like thousands of turbines going up right now. It used to be when you thought of deployment on like Germany, for example, it'd be 3 turbines on this hillside.
Yeah.
Now we're talking about in the UK of hundreds of turbines hitting the water.
Yeah.
And that's change of scale has driven a lot of operators to realize I need expertise in blades. I need expertise in CMS. I need an expert in gearbox, but I don't necessarily need them full time.
Yeah.
SkySpecs, can you help me?
I mean, the projects there's fewer projects, but the scale of these projects are massive. You know, the scale of the turbine, scale of the projects, and the impact the projects can have on the country as a whole is massive. So, yeah, it's a great time to be in Europe and to see the growth. You know, it's been coming for a long time. I've worked with consultancies who are looking at feasibility studies in offshore and onshore, but the growth has been just around the corner, and I do feel like now with some of these big projects that they're installing, and yeah, just given the size of the turbines, it's massive.
Well, one of the things I think that's an important context here is that we're sitting in Ann Arbor, right? We're in the U.S., you're over in Europe. I worked for a Danish company for a while, and it was always like this 7-hour delay, kind of like, can I get the support? Can they get the support? How do we work back and forth? Sometimes it was cool because you'd send an email at 2:00, and when you woke up in the morning, it was done. That was awesome. But also there was these delays. Now, this is the interesting thing here is in SkySpecs this morning, we listened to Cheryl. Always a great presentation. Yeah. Head of the TEI blade stuff here. She was delivering some insights, but with her was Thomas. Thomas is in Europe, right? And you have CMS experts in Europe. You have the local talent that's over there that can work with these operators on their timelines, on their regular day stuff. They're not waiting. And what I'm trying to get to is SkySpecs is not a Ann Arbor company. SkySpecs is a global company in a big way, right? And so so thinking like, oh, this is an American company, we'll use someone that's more local. Like, no, SkySpecs is a local European company as well.
Yeah, and we've got the SMEs over there. You know, it's not just Cheryl, who's a fantastic engineer to have at your disposal. Thomas is phenomenal. Customers are seeing real value in integrating him into their team, being the SME for them. But as we said before, being able to turn him on and off as required. You've not got the FTE cost, right? To bringing in an SME that needs to support you with an individual component of your asset. And yeah, blades are a huge problem. The industry's seeing that as they're getting bigger, the problems are getting bigger. But yeah, having a local presence in Europe is massive. You know, my inbox is full from all the US inquiries and issues during the night, just like you're saying. Yeah. And I wake up to dozens of emails with requirements, so my inbox and my to-do list is full. But the reality is, yeah, we're growing in Europe. We're a real solid presence in Europe, and we've seen massive growth this year.
Well, I think it's part of the value chain there, right? Touching on the Thomas and Cheryl, right? So in SkySpecs, over this week, we've been talking more and more about how you guys like to specifically work within like a workflow, and that workflow being We have inspections. We're in the platform. Now we're in Horizon, bam, and we can enable the tech-enabled services, which is those SMEs which you have inside the company, and then rolling that forward to the repair vendor management, which is happening in a big way in the States. Yesterday, I saw a number, $13 million in repairs managed by the SkySpecs team. That's huge. And that same capability, and we're just talking blades right now. Like we haven't even touched on CMS, performance monitoring, financial asset monitoring. That same concept is replicate in the EU as well.
No, it absolutely is. Absolutely is. Our customers have got problems. We can help them with the problems. Thomas is, as you said, we work in workflows, and Thomas is looking to support customers with how they touch their data as few times as they possibly can. How do we get from A to B, and how does the customer understand what their problems are and how they fix the problems? And sometimes an SME is the way to fix that. Thomas has provided huge value to our customers. The design of workflows in Horizon is the essence. It exists just to try and get from A to B, and try and drive insights and in next steps. And I think that's the important part.
Actions. This is what
the action.
To get to the
result. We've got the data. We understand what the data is telling us. Here's an insight, but actually, what is the follow up? And Thomas is designing that follow up for our customers and providing the support.
And just a little bit of comparison between the United States and Europe. When we still talk to anybody in the United States about a turbine, almost always it's a 2 megawatt, 1.5 megawatt turbine, right? Occasionally a 4, sometimes.
Someone said yesterday, like, oh, that's a 3 megawatt turbine.
Whoa, that's big. And in Europe, 3 megawatts was like years ago, particularly offshore. That everything's 6, 8, 10 plus.
3.6 was the common turbine 5, 8 years ago. That was what everyone was working on, and they're a very reliable turbine. There was a reason why there were so many of them installed at that time. But nowadays, we're helping OEMs with 15 megawatt turbines.
Well, and I think that's the thing that we just don't see in the States is a turbine that's 15 megawatts is down for a day is so much more expensive, and particularly offshore, and the expenses go astronomical compared to onshore. Right. So, and Michael, I always see your position of like, you're there to save millions of pounds or millions of euros all the time, because a shutdown there is huge. And because the grids are changing so much in Europe, where they're becoming more solar and wind dependent, and coal is going away, and
triage.
Yeah, the triage bit is that SkySpecs is in that position to really help a lot of operators out. You're providing the insights and the guidance and the knowledge that an operator probably doesn't have, because they don't have the staff to go do it. And can you enlighten us like what that is like, because we just don't see a lot of that here.
Yeah, I think there's a good reason you don't see that. Because we're just providing data to some of these transactions, whether it's a due diligence inspection or an end of warranty. We're just providing the insights for the customers to make their own decisions. So it's not a SkySpecs decision. We're just providing insights to allow them to make a smart, educated, data-driven decision.
Well, I think that's important concept too, because like here in the SkySpecs user forum, of course, we're in the States, so we've been talking, and I think there's only 2 or 3 people here from overseas. So we've been talking a lot about the one big beautiful, what it means. That doesn't mean that much to you in your daily life, right? No. But your daily life is a bit different. With you have more of a focus on maybe financial asset owners, because the market's different, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The simplification of process and actually having a workflow, no matter what it is, whether we're taking financial data, CMS data, or performance SCADA data, the simplification of that process and driving insights from it is literally the foundation of what SkySpecs have been here to do. So providing, financial institutions, funds with the ability to reach out and make quick decisions, data-driven decisions. There's some very smart people in these organizations, asset managers, who are a costly resource to the fund. What they really need to do is pull levers as and when it's required to, hey, we need some support with SCADA, we need some support with blades. How do they bring that resource and that expertise in-house without having the FTE? And the funds are, phenomenal companies. They're growing fast. They don't want the linear growth of people to go along with that growth of their portfolio. So it's important that we build relationships and make sure that we're helping them in every side of their business, whether it's financial decisions or technical decisions.
I think there's an important takeaway from this week as well. Listening to all the SkySpecs, the people, the presentations, the communications, the collaborations, the conversations. Some of them a little bit later at night than other ones. I won't name any names, but listening to those things and understanding this. So a few weeks ago, when we talked with Josh Garrell a little bit ago, and I shared this with him. I saw a McKinsey report that said SkySpecs inspection company. SkySpecs to me is not an inspection company anymore. They do the best inspections in the world in wind, in my opinion. Yes. However, there's so much more. There's so much more there, and it's really a full support, in my opinion, for the CMS, the SCADA, the performance monitoring, the financial asset modeling, the tech-enabled insights, repair vendor management. There's so many other solutions within this umbrella that I think a lot of people don't see.
And the one case study that came up yesterday, Michael, I think that I found interesting was the offshore inspections before blades are hung. Yeah. And we see a lot of times in the States where blades are damaged in transport. We think, okay, yeah, the truck damaged it. Okay, fine, we can fix it on the ground. But on the offshore case, that simple repair now has to happen out in the ocean. And that goes from a couple of $1,000s to tens of pounds to tens of thousands of pounds or more to get that resolved. And you had a case just like that.
Yeah. And I think it's hundreds of thousands, if we're being honest. If you start looking at vessel costs, crew costs, everything else. But actually, what I like about it is the OEMs are actually becoming way more proactive because they know the cost of an up-tower repair compared to an onshore repair. So having the foresight to have the inspections completed at the right time, working with us on timelines, using technology to perform the inspections, getting through as many as we can, as quickly as we can, addressing the problems, doing the analysis, and then actually solving the problem before it goes offshore is massive. The craneage, how many times is a blade lifted from the factory to installation? It's a lot. It's handled a lot. So there's a lot of opportunity for something to go wrong. As you said, it's been knocked. There's something wrong. Something has happened. But solving that is the OEM's responsibility. So they are becoming much more proactive, in my opinion. We've had a lot of use cases this week, and it's always been about the owners, the operators, how we've saved them money, how we provided them value. But the OEMs are looking to us to help them on that front as well, whether it's robotic or whether it's providing analysis or a platform to manage the data. We're working with them in offshore, but the problems are so much bigger.
I think the OEMs are learning from SkySpecs. They're watching what operators are doing to hedge their bets, to protect their assets, and SkySpecs is pretty much involved in all of that. Now the OEMs are watching the operators saying, why are we not doing that?
We're seeing that in the Lightning.
Absolutely. We're seeing it in Lightning. We're seeing it in CMS now. Mm-hmm. We're seeing it in a number of areas where the OEMs have watched SkySpecs maneuver and provide better value to their customers that the OEMs are trying to mirror.
I ought to touch on another case study because, Alan, you and I sat in on this one yesterday. And if so, I'm going to put my I'm a European operator hat on. This is a little weird. I have a good accent. I don't know.
Michael's not going to
try it. But okay, say I'm going to, I have a smaller wind farm, right? So I may have 20 turbines of a specific model. And I would like to understand, where am I at for performance benchmarking? Am I doing well or not? I don't have a huge fleet. European fleets are not that big unless you're offshore, as specifically compared to like the US, where our wind farms are 100, 120 turbines. SunZia is 1,000 turbines, right? That's a wind farm. So the problem is different. But SkySpecs has that data. If this is your site, let's look at how your site is doing compared to these 1,500 of the same models around the world. And then you can look at that, understand your performance benchmark, and then start diving into the issues that may be causing it to not perform as well, and then fixing them and getting it up to speed to what it should be compared to everybody else. And I thought, man, what a use case, especially in a European market.
No, absolutely. And we always talk about benchmarking. I've been with companies that have tried benchmarking in the past, looking at KPIs. How do you benchmark your performance of your turbine against something similar? And I think SkySpecs are starting to get that right. We've got the SCADA data and looking at the biggest impacting damages or the biggest failure faults that you have on your turbine and how we can help you push the OEMs. Just give them a prod to.
We saw case studies on that yesterday.
The case studies we've seen this week have actually been incredible. And that's probably the biggest takeaway for a lot of people, to try and understand how we've helped the customers achieve a return, or what we've saved them over time. So those have been probably the biggest takeaway for me this week. Just people are starting to understand and appreciate the returns they could see if they engage with us on all these other products. But the performance side of things, benchmarking is a really interesting topic, completely away from just looking at performance data. Everyone in the room over the last couple of days is dancing around the topic of benchmarking, because they're very protective of the data.
Yes.
But I think people, and we've spoken about maybe for the last 12 months, they have shown an interest in, I can share some data, and if it's anonymized, I'd be happy to take part in that. But I'd love to see that taken a step further. I'd love to see that. I think everyone in the industry, everyone in that room would benefit from data sharing to learn from each other with fully anonymized data.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, there have been a number of announcements this week also from SkySpecs. Some of the bigger ones are the move into solar. And Europe, there's a lot of solar power in Europe, particularly some parts of Europe. That could be a massive amount of phone calls your way, Michael, like, oh, SkySpecs is doing blades, turbines, and solar? I'll take it.
Yeah.
And I think there's been a huge demand for that for the last several years, but it's just been, you've been so busy with turbine problems, honestly, that you haven't had the ability to get to solar. Now, with some of the tools you just brought in, you can.
Yeah, I think we started off just blades, as we all know.
Yeah.
As you said, we're just an inspection company. The acquisitions we've made over the last few years have been taking us to the point where we're now covering full turbine asset health monitoring. And that was an important part. Once we achieve that, now you gain a bit of clarity. We can start to look at diversification into new asset types. Solar's been something I'm asked about once a month from European customers and prospects. So we've tempered expectations for quite a long time. We know we were going to move into solar at some point. We've got a really big opportunity. I think we're very well positioned to help solar operators.
I think there's the variability in solar from the different manufacturers. There's so many manufacturers of panels and inverters, and even some of the configurations, the support structures have issues. But SkySpecs is going to make that a lot easier because the tools are better now than they were 5 years ago.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, we've got a massive customer base with that mix of wind, solar, battery. So we have to come up with that solution. And the tools are perfectly placed.
Yeah.
It's the same engineers that will be asked. Now you're dealing with solar. There'll be no questions asked. There will be,
That's happening already.
you fixed wind for us.
I'm going to change your job description to wind engineer plus solar.
Yeah.
And then it's going to be plus BESS, right? That's
renewable
the change.
energy engineer.
Right.
Yeah, that's what it will be, right? But I think there's some things here too to share with the European crowd. Is there has been some strategic additions to the leadership team. Ben Torkin coming on as a CTO, helping with some of that data architecture in the background, and then what will be the future of you guys have. I mean, there's always work to be done, right? But have gotten really close to having a perfect little model of this is how you manage a wind asset. Well, now that can be Control C, Control V solar, Control C, Control V BESS. And that's the future of what SkySpecs is going to become, a renewable energy company. And that's the future.
Yeah, I think that the additions to the business have been pretty visionary.
Yeah.
Rich and Ben are both phenomenal individuals that will drive us to success in all these other areas. Rich has been part of the business and from the board for a number of years now, and I think he's now seeing how special the business is, how special it could be once we start that diversification.
Yeah, I've seen Rich here because we are in Ann Arbor at the forum. It's Wednesday, so we're on day 2. And I've seen Rich floating around talking with some of the customers, talking with a lot of the SkySpecs employees. I've had a few conversations with him, and that man has a big smile on his face all day long.
Yeah,
he sees the opportunity. He's happy to engage. He wants to talk with people. He's going to be a big part of the future of the group, and I think it's exciting to see him here.
He really has. I think both of them have really accelerated the excitement and the development of all the tools. Everyone's rallying behind them to try and make sure that we get to the next.
Yeah, last night we talked with Ben about big data and analytics, and we're recording it now. So we're telling, we're going to try to get him down to Australia to speak to the Australian crowd during our event down there in February about big data analytics and his background, what SkySpecs is doing with it.
Yeah, and big data is the future. Everybody knew it 3 years ago.
Yeah.
We're finally at the level we can start processing it and make use of it. I think, Michael, you're in a unique position, and SkySpecs is in a really unique position in Europe. The world is looking to Europe on renewables. The expansion of renewables, how coal has essentially gone away, gas is still kind of kicking around. France has still a good bit of nuclear, and rightly so. It's a great resource for them. But the solar, wind, battery play is going to be the big push over the next several years. Without SkySpecs, it's going to be really hard to be successful there. And to get the revenue stream that you expected out of it, your phone has to be ringing off the hook all the time.
The co-location story has been building momentum for a couple of years now. And right now it's just everyone's talking about it. The adding batteries to sites and co-locating solar with wind. And it's a really exciting time. SkySpecs are really well positioned to help every one of them. So
how do people get a hold of you? And is LinkedIn the best place? Just go Michael McQueenie and SkySpecs?
Yeah, most people, I'm fairly well connected in the European market. A lot of people have my details, but yeah, LinkedIn, absolutely.
Okay, great. Michael, I love having you on webinars and in person for these interview sessions because Joel and I learned so much. You're just a great resource. And if you're interested in SkySpecs and the services that they offer in Europe, get a hold of Michael. He will get you set up and get you into the Horizon platform and get you solutions. So, Michael, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you very much.
It's been great.